Welcome back to another super exciting episode of Southern Sorcery. Yeah! I am pumped to be here because today we are doing deck techs around the newest Commander Precons, and that comes from the new Final Fantasy set. This set drops in June, so we're like a month away from it actually hitting the shelves, and it is already the most sold set in Magic the Gathering history, which is just bonkers because things actually cross the counter from cash register to person buying it, which is just bananas. Final Fantasy obviously has a massive following. It's a video game series, if you're not familiar with it, that's been around since like the late 80s, early 90s, I think. It's made its way from Nintendo to Super Nintendo, 1, 2, all the way to now. So it has stood the test of time. Each story is kind of unique in the fact that it's its own adventure with its own subset of characters, which is, really awesome. And what's really cool about it is huge in like just the figurines. People love that. It's just anything that Final Fantasy touches really like turns to gold. So now they're turning Magic into gold, like literally, like the prices are like worth the amount of gold. So if you're saying, hey Shane, I can't afford these Commander decks, well, you are in the right place, my friend, because you have an opportunity to win this deck, or all of the decks, I should say. We're going to do a video like we always do a deck tech review, do a little budget upgrade where we like take a $50 budget and tweak a little bit to make the deck maybe more cohesive in some areas. Spoiler alert, these were really tough to cut because they added a ton of new cards, which we never cut new cards, and they're just really good out of the box. They seem like very viable decks, so these would be good to just throw down at the table, sleeve up and play, and have a good time with it. Please take the time to subscribe if you're not subscribed. That's how you enter, and then just make a thoughtful comment on this video about maybe what you would add, maybe what you would take out. We'd love to hear you guys' feedback. There's tons of bright minds out there that are geared towards Magic, way more concise than my own. Yeah, let's just dive into it. So today we are doing the first deck tech would be around Revival Trance. This one is based on Final Fantasy VI. Correct. That is correct. Final Fantasy VI. I did not play this game. I think it was on Super Nintendo. So give me some grace. I'm going to butcher some names. These names aren't the easiest to say for a southern boy like myself. I say. Sit down, Holly. But let's just dive into it. First and foremost, let's talk about some of the new cards. There are like 19 legendary creatures in this deck, and like each deck, if you were a named character in one of these games that they did a Commander Precon around, you were getting a legendary card. So there's so many new commanders that are getting introduced with just the precons alone. I'm not even counting the face and backup commanders, like just cards they've added as creatures. But let's dive into it. Let's talk about the face commander. This is what we built it around when we did our budget upgrade, and this is Terra, Herald of Hope, and she has an ability called Trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until end of turn, which is important because she likes combat. Why does she like combat? Because whenever she deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 generic mana. When you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this deck is obviously going to be about graveyard shenanigans. We want to see stuff go into the yard, so we got some mill abilities. We want to see stuff come out of the yard, so we want some ETB triggers because we got stuff going in and out, entering the battlefield, causing things to happen. So that is pretty much the theme of the deck. Let's just go through our favorite part, like I said, and let's talk about some of these new cards. The first card I want to talk about is a new artifact. This is called Coin of Fate. Coin of Fate is an artifact that is 1 and a white. It says whenever this artifact enters, you surveil 1, which means you can look at the top card of your library, leave it on top, or put it in the yard, which is nice for graveyard decks. In 3 and a white, you can tap it to exile 2 creature cards from your graveyard, sacrifice this artifact, and opponent chooses one of the exile cards. You put that card on the bottom of your library and return the other to the battlefield tapped. You become the monarch. Like, what a very unique mechanic and very centric to graveyard. Plus it's white. I would almost think that this would be like a black card just because it's so graveyard specific with like how you're choosing to exile and then move some stuff around, but you are getting monarch, so that's white. I don't know, pretty cool card. I like it. The next one, this is pretty popular in the games, Phoenix Down. I think this is an item you can carry around for your characters, and like if someone like got knocked out or taking a 0 health, this would like revive them, I believe. I could be wrong. Again, please just you can correct me in the comments. Let me know how far off I am on that. But Phoenix Down is a new artifact. It's 1 white. You pay 1 and a white and tap it to exile it. Choose 1. You can either return target creature card with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, which is great because you love seeing stuff come out of the yard. or you can exile target skeleton, spirit, or zombie, which is kind of funny to me that it's specific to those types. I'm assuming in Final Fantasy VI, those are the bads, like the skeletons, spirits, and zombies, possibly. That's pretty cool. I like that. It's very on theme as well. After that, we also have a new vehicle. We have the Falcon Airship Restored, which is like a really cool looking like Zephyr blimp. This is 2 and a black for a legendary artifact vehicle. Has flying. Whenever the Falcon deals damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Great, love it, very synergistic. And then 4 and a black, you can pay this as many times as you want. Return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, and it only takes 2 to crew it. It's a 4/3. Pretty cool card, I like that. In terms of vehicles, it's really nice. It's very thematic for graveyard specific decks too. After that, we've got some new instances. We've got Espers to Magicite. This is 3 and a black for an instant that says exile each opponent's graveyard. When you do, choose up to 1 target creature card exiled this way, create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's an artifact, and it loses all other card types. I like it. Instant speed, that's pretty interesting. You can really stop some people from like basically taking off if they're going to win from like their graveyard or something. This could be a way to shut that off. We got Laughing Mad next. This is another new instant. This is 2 in a red. Laughing Mad says as an additional cost to cast the spell, discard a card. You draw 2 cards, and then it has flashback, which means you can play it out of the yard for 3 in a red. When you play it after its flashback, you exile after that. Moving on from there, we've got some new sorceries. We've got Rejoin the Fight. This is 5 and a black for a sorcery that says mill 3 cards, which we like. We want to mill, put stuff from the top of our library into our graveyard. Then starting with the next opponent in turn order, each opponent chooses a creature card in your graveyard that hasn't been chosen. Return each card chosen this way to the battlefield under your control. I really like that. I like the chaos behind that. And if you run this deck essentially with nothing but like just crazy good creatures, you're going to force their hand. No matter what they choose, it's going to be beneficial to you. So I like that. It's really fun. And then Snort, which I really enjoy. I love the artwork on this, and and the card itself is really great. I can see this getting played in a lot of decks. 3 in a red. This is a sorcery that says each player may discard their hand and draw 5 cards. Then Snort deals 5 damage to each opponent who discarded their hand this way, and it has flashback again, so you get to do it all over again, which is great. It's built in like graveyard shenanigan with flashback. I can see this going in a lot of like decks where like card draw matters, like Nekusar and places like that. So another good card. Well, now let's talk about some of the characters that are probably near and dear to your heart if you've played Final Fantasy VI. Starting with, and again, I'm going to mispronounce these names. You can hammer me in the comments. I mean, I have a hard time saying like regular words correctly. I just have a terrible East Tennessean accent, and it's a very lazy accent. So you just keep watching and you'll see. We've got Bannon, the Returner's leader. This is a legendary creature, a human cleric rebel. Most of them are all like humans, or with like they have like, you know, different like creature types, but they always seem to have like human for the most part. He has prey. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from among cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere other than the battlefield this turn. And then whenever you attack, you may pay 1 generic and discard a card if you do draw a card. Seems pretty good. You know, like I said, all these can be like their own commander. It's wild how many options you're going to get with these decks, of just due to the fact that there's so many legendary creatures. After that, we got Celeste, the Ruin Knight. She is 1 red, white, and black. She is a human wizard knight, legendary creature, obviously. When Celeste enters, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards +1, which is great, so you're filling your graveyard and your hand up. And whenever 1 or more other creatures you control enter, if 1 or more of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. She is the backup commander for the 2 that get spotlighted whenever you like see the deck online. There's usually 2 commanders that it shows. She is the secondary commander. That's why she's so darn good. She might be even better than the face commander in certain build situations. I really like Celeste. I think she'd be a fun commander to run. After that, we've got, I'm going to say Cyan, just like, you know, how you'd say Cyan, like blue. Cyan Vengeful Samurai. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. He is 6 and a white, so he can go all the way down to 1 white for a 3/3. And that says whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on Cyan. Yeah, he can get huge. And he's a samurai, which is really cool. I like the samurais. So we've got samurais in Magic. We've got ninjas with ninjutsu. A lot of cool flavor that can be built around that. We've got Edgar, not Markov, but Edgar the Master Mechanist. Edgar is 2 red and a white for a legendary creature, a human artificer noble. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact spell from your graveyard. If a spell was cast this way, that artifact enters tapped. And then he has a mechanic called Tools. Whenever Edgar attacks, it gets +X/+0 until a turn where X is the greatest mana value among artifacts you control. I love that. This could definitely be a really cool Boro artifact build, which is fun. Plus his artwork, he is very noble. He is very regal. I like that crossbow, the cape, the armor. Edgar's just doing everything right to be like super noble. Following Edgar, we've got Gao, Feral Youth. My guy just runs like an animal. I like it. He's a human berserker, 1 in a red. This card's fun. He has rage whenever Gao attacks. Gao attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So anytime you get attack, you get a +1/+1. At the beginning of each end step, if a card left your graveyard this turn, which will do a lot, equal to its power to each opponent. So pretty cool, like, way to build it. Like if you wanted to build some kind of reanimator deck and just flood your graveyard full of like big stompy things, and then like have his ability, you know, happen where he's out there triggering that type of stuff, you can do some big damage with him. Following, we've got General Leo Christoph. When General Leo Christoph enters, return up to 1 target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then put a +1/+1 counter on General Leo Christoph for each creature you control. I like it. It's another way to pay off stuff that's in your graveyard. So very synergistic. It's just weird seeing these colors like with white and stuff like that. It's just different. A graveyard shenanigan build, but I like it. And plus I just don't know these characters that well, so they're just like new to me. We've got Go-Go, the Mysterious Mime. This is 3 in a red for legendary creature that's a wizard. This is a wall of text. At the beginning of combat, they all have a wall of text. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have Go-Go become a copy of another target creature you control until end of turn, except its name is Go-Go, Mysterious Mime. If you do, Go-Go and that creature each get +2/+0 and gain haste until end of turn, and attack this turn if able. Seems fun. Like I said, like any of these could be viable commanders on their own. After that, we got a new doll. We got Interceptor, Shadow's Hound, 2 and 2 black, a legendary creature that's a dog. What is that, a Rottweiler looks like? Yeah. A Menace. Assassins you control have Menace, so all those Assassin's Creed decks you built that have assassins galore, there you go. You've got a really good dog now that can give them all Menace. Whenever you attack with 1 or more legendary creatures, you may pay 2 and a black. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. That's really good. I can see this definitely getting play. I'm going to cross video games here, but definitely getting play in like Assassin's Creed, because there's nothing but assassins and all of them were legendary, so it just fits in those immediately. Then we've got Kefka, the Dancing Mad. 5 black and a red. This is a human wizard. Definitely looks terrifying, like a demented clown almost. During your turn, Kefka has indestructible. At the beginning of your end step, exile a card at random from each opponent's graveyard. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Then each player who owns a spell you cast this way loses life equal to its mana value. I love that. That's Rakdos all day. That's just chaos and random and fun. That would be a really fun deck to build. And it works here too, because just again, you're doing more graveyard shenanigans. Then we have Lock, Treasure Hunter. I told you there was a ton here. We still got more to go. Lock, Treasure Hunter. This is another Rakdos card. 1 black and a red. Legendary creature, human rogue. Lock can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, and he has power of 2 and toughness of 3. He has Mug, so he's, I guess, a thief. He can mug people. Whenever Lock attacks, each player mills a card. If a land card was milled this way, create a treasure token. Until end of turn, you may cast a spell from among those cards. Wow, that's really cool too. I mean, the mechanics on all these cards are just sneaky good. I mean, it's just loaded with legendary cards that just have very unique, and like most every creature in these decks, like the creatures themselves, were all legendary creatures from characters from those Final Fantasy games. So it's very hard to cut cards when you're like doing these upgrades if you wanted to keep it true to its, like, you know, its original build. Following Lock, we've got Mog. I like Mog. Mog, the Mogul Warrior. Mog looks really cute. He's like a cat. I guess these are called Moogles. Anyway, they just look really cool. 1 red and a white legendary creature, Moogle Warrior, lifelink, and he dances. Like, he's got a mechanic called Dance. At the beginning of your end step, each player may discard a card. Each player who discarded a card this way draws a card. It's cool. 1 in, 1 out. If a creature card was discarded this way, here's the payoff for you. You get to create a 1/2 white Moogle creature, token with lifelink. Then if a non-creature card was discarded this way, put a +1/+1 counter on each Moogle you control. I like it. I mean, that's a deck by itself right there. Just build a Moogle deck and run Mog the Moogle as your commander. Easy peasy. All right, again, we're not even, like, maybe now we're halfway through. There's so many new legendaries. We've got Sabin, the Master Monk. I got 4 in a red for a legendary creature with, it's a human noble monk. So not only is Sabin a monk, he's also a noble monk. Has double strike, so that means it hits twice, and it has Blitz, 2 and 2 red to discard a card. If you cast this spell, this is the Blitz mechanic. For its Blitz cost, it gains haste, and when that creature dies, draw a card, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a way to really like speed something out, make sure it can hit, and then do its thing. And you may cast this card from your graveyard using its Blitz ability, which is really cool because it just keeps kind of coming back. I like that. It's a lot of fun. Plus the 4/3, if it goes through the double strike, it's 8 damage to your face. Following Sabin, we've got Setzer. Setzer is the Wandering Gambler. Man, he looks so cool. His artwork just makes him look so dope. I want a black and a red for a human rogue pilot, of course, legendary. When Setzer enters, create the Blackjack, a legendary 3/3 colorless vehicle artifact token with flying and crew 2. Whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, flip a coin. We love to flip coins. Whenever you win a coin flip, create 2 tap treasure tokens. Man, how fun is this? This commander is a lot of fun. You get to flip some coins. You can kind of run it around some vehicles, which is don't get a lot of love. I like this. Setzer's good. Speaking of assassins from earlier, we've got Shadow. This is the owner of the dog we spoke about. Shadow, mysterious assassin, is 2 and a black for a legendary creature that is a human assassin. Lo and behold, has Death Touch, which means if it deals any type of combat damage, it kills whatever, even if it's just 1 little point. And then a mechanic called Throw. Whenever Shadow deals combat damage to a player, he throws his dog at you. No, I'm just kidding. Whenever Shadow deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice another non-land permanent. If you do, draw 2 cards, and each opponent loses life equal to the mana value of the sacrifice permanent. Yeah, he's definitely throwing stuff at you, and you're going to take some damage for it. After that, we have another really cool looking character. All these characters look really cool. We got Siegfried, the famed swordsman. How good is Siegfried? That's the question I want to ask the Final Fantasy folks out there. How good of a swordsman is he in the game? Legendary creature, human warrior rogue with menace, which means he has to be blocked by 2 or more creatures, not by 1 in the game. Whenever Siegfried enters, lost my spot. Whenever Siegfried enters, mill 3 cards. So you're going to put the top 3 cards from your library into your graveyard, and then put X +1/+1 counters on Siegfried, where X is twice the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Seems good because this deck is loaded down with creatures. As a matter of fact, it's got 34 of them. So tons of potential there for that. Following Siegfried, we got Strago and Realm. This is really just a wall of text for a card. 2 in a red, we got Sketch and Lore, mechanic called Sketch and Lore. Strago and Realm, legendary creature, human wizard. 2 in a red for that to tap, and so what you do is you tap the creature. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant sorcery or creature card, so instant sorcery creature. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, so if you get one of those, you get to cast it for free. If you cast a creature spell this way, it gains haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this creature, activate only as a sorcery, so you can't activate this ability at instant speed. It will have to happen on your turn, essentially. That's a fun mechanic. You can, like, you're stealing stuff and doing stuff for free. And then we got these are the new, this is from Final Fantasy. I think I see this a lot, where you can summon like monsters as magic. Again, guys, I apologize. I'm not just super, savvy when it comes to the lore, but this is a new saga. This is specific to a saga Drake, so it's almost got like a different, it's almost got like a creature type for it. Anywho, this is called Summon Esper Valigarmanda. Valigarmanda. Yes, Sea Drake. Saga Drake. There we go. Anywho, it's got 4 steps. It's got 4 lores. The first one is you get to exile an instant or sorcery card from each graveyard, which is cool. And then for 2, 3, and 4, you get to add red for each lore counter on this saga. You may cast an instant or sorcery card exiled with this saga, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Really cool. Fun way to steal some more stuff. Sorry I butchered that from start to finish. Essentially, just a really fun new saga. Like the sagas all come with like lore counters on them. Each lore counter is a step that you get to take to do something unique to what the card says. And this one basically has one, the first start of it is by itself, and then 2, 3, and 4 all the same thing. But as your lore counters go up, you get more mana to add to your pool to cast the exiled card. So pretty fun. Following that, we've got the Warring Triad. This is maybe the big bad. I don't know. It looks evil. Maybe it's not. It's a god for 3 colorless mana, so you can spend 3 of anything. 3 generic, I should say, not colorless. Colorless now. It's got a little triangle, but It's flying, trample, haste for a 5/5 legendary creature, artifact god. As long as there are fewer than 8 cards in your graveyard, the Warring Triad isn't a creature. Okay, but then you can tap to mill a card. Target player adds 1 mana of any color. That's kind of fun too. I think it'd be pretty quick to get as much milling as you're doing in this deck. Just normally, you're going to be able to like have this as a creature pretty quick. And then finally, our last card. Again, this is going to be a longer segment because they've added a ton of new cards. You know, normally it's like 10. And this is like 25 new cards or whatever. We've got Umaro, the Raging Yeti. This is probably my favorite artwork. It's a Yeti, which I automatically would think it'd be like blue because it's like cold, but it's a red card. 5 and a red. A Yeti Berserker, maybe that's why, because it's just like mad. It's a mad Yeti. It has trample. It's a 6/6, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to choose 1 at random, which I love. Other creatures you control get +3/+0 and gain trample until the turn. Discard your hand and draw 4 cards, or Umaro deals 5 damage to any target. I love this card. I want to build a red deck around Umaro just off rip. Just seeing it for the first time. I love the artwork, the angry Yeti coming at you. The randomness of it can be a lot of fun. But those are your new cards for the Revival Trance Final Fantasy VI Commander Precon. Let me know what your thoughts are, on these new cards. Like I said, there are a ton of new legendary creatures to the game that are honoring to the game of Magic that are honoring the game of Final Fantasy VI from back in the day. So let's talk about what we changed, and then we'll get into like how you enter and maybe what I'm looking for as far as a comment, and just we'll close it out from there. Let's talk about the adds and then, the cuts. So these aren't necessarily like one-to-one. I'm just going to talk about a card we added and a card we cut. I wanted to add Ashnod's Altar. Ashnod's Altar is a great piece for getting things into the graveyard and you getting a benefit from it. Ashnod's Altar is 3 for an artifact, and then it has a 0 ability where you basically just sack a creature, 0 mana. Sack a creature to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. Play this ability as an interrupt. That's the old art or the old text on it. Essentially, you're just gonna sack a creature to add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool. So it's a way to get creatures, from your board to the graveyard. A lot of these creatures that we have in the deck have payoffs for when things like go into the graveyard or out of the graveyard. So we got to get them in to get them out. We cut Angel of Ruins for 5 and 2 white. Not a ton of removal in this deck, so this was maybe a fringe cut because she is removal on her ETB flying. Whenever this creature enters, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments, and she has plane cycling, so there is a way to get her in the deck, or in the graveyard I should say, fairly fast with that, but I just thought Ashnod's Altar was better. Next is Entomb. Entomb's just a great card for any type of deck that wants to see stuff in your yard. Entomb is 1 black, search your library for a card, and put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So it's literally just a tutor to go get whatever card you want to have in the graveyard. It's great because it really just kind of helps maybe close out a game or get something going as far as a domino effect for a really fun and explosive turn. We cut Ash Barrens. This is one of the lands we cut. This was the only land we cut that wasn't like a part of an MDFC. So Ash Barrens went just because it has basic land cycling and this taps for colorless. I mean, the basic land cycling is nice because you can kind of fix with that, but it costs 1. I just wanted to cut it. It's just not one of my favorite lands. I'm just not partial to it. After that, we've got Goblin Bombardment, another way to get creatures into the yard, plus do some damage and get rid of stuff. So this is another way to there wasn't, like I said, a ton of removal, so this is a way to deal direct damage to get things removed. It's an enchantment that says sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. It's also a way to get rid of players too. That's how you win the game sometimes, is player removal. We remove Big Score. We've got enough draw with some other cards that I didn't really, Big Score is just mana intensive, even though you do get treasures, but 3 in a red for an instant that says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards, and create 2 treasure tokens. Next, we added Karmic Guide. Just love this card for graveyard decks. 3 and 2 white for Angel Spirit. The Spirit. Flying protection from black. It has Echo. 3 and 2 white. So that Echo cost you'd have to pay on your next upkeep. If you don't, it dies. But you're okay with that because when Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So getting it into the graveyard itself, and you have recursion, you can keep putting it back on the field. It enters the battlefield. It gets to do its trigger again. So you're just constantly being able to spot stuff from in your graveyard with it. It's like a 2-for-1 almost if you return this card with a mechanic that returns something from the yard. After to that one we cut, well, not specifically, but this is a card we cut. Jerome Thermal Bog. I did cut all the tap lands that enter tapped. Out of the box, this one comes with 37 lands. I kept it at 36 with the MDFCs, which are the ones that have a land on one side and then something else on the other. So I was okay with that. 36 lands, I think I'm okay with. Karmic Guide, we talked about. Pinnacle Monk, speaking of MDFCs. So Pinnacle Monk, this can be played as a land that you would pay 3 life for it to not come in tapped, and it taps for red. Or late game, you don't need a land, it's not a dead draw because you can play Pinnacle Monk. 3 and 2 red, it has prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And it has a nice little ETB. When Pinnacle Monk enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So let's get Entomb back and go find something specific again. I love MDFC cards. They are just the best. I say that they're the best because they're just not dead. You know how, if you ever played Magic late in the game, I need something, and you get a land, you're like, oh, but these cards are twofers. They're either land on one side, or they're a creature, an instant or sorcery, or something else on the other. They're just great. They're going to see a lot more, I think, just you like play as they build upon these, because they're still fairly new from when they came out, and they're getting like even more like better. Like MH3, Modern Horizons 3 introduced a ton of like ones, like even the uncommon ones are like $10 because they're seeing so much play. So great job, Wizards. Really cool mechanic you did good there. For that, we cut Legions to Ashes. This is a removal spell that I just didn't really love. 1 white and a black, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls, and all tokens that player controls with the same name, so you can get rid of like a bunch of tokens, treasures, maps, clues, blood tokens, food, like all that type of stuff. But I mean, there's just better stuff out there. After that, we added Ripples of Undeath. Speaking of Modern Horizons 3, this card has become a staple for any type of graveyard deck. This is 1 and a black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards, so off top 1, 2, 3 into your yard. Then you may pay 1 generic and 3 life. If you do, put a card from among those cards into your hand. So not only are you getting a card, cards into your graveyard, which matter, you're able to get an answer from among them if you see something that you need right away by paying 1 and 3 life, which life is a resource. Use it. Use it, baby. We cut Knight's Whisper. This is 1 and a black for a sorcery. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. Ton of other ways to draw here. Just didn't really, at sorcery speed. If it was an instant speed, maybe playable, but cut it nonetheless. Selfless Spirit, just a great way to protect our board, and a way to get it in the graveyard easily is 1 and a white for a Spirit Cleric. Flying, sacrifice this creature. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. It's a 2/1. Great way just for any deck that recurs stuff to constantly have a way to protect your board over and over again. We cut a Ruinous Ultimatum, which could be a win con, just mana intensive. This one was fringe. This was probably the last cut I made. This one I could see definitely like leaving in the deck. I don't know. It's like I said, it's a win con because it's a one-sided board wipe, and it's also a board wipe where it's just all non-land permanents, so it's not just creatures. But yeah, destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control, which is nice. But it is 7 mana to get off, and it is like pip intensive, where you have to have 2 red, 3 white, 2 black specifically. It's not just like generic mana. So I did cut it ultimately. And then the last one is another MDFC card, and that just means like the flip, that when I use that term MDFC. This is Witch Enchanter. So on one side it's the land, it's a white land, same concept as Pinnacle Monk. You pay 3 life for this land. It will enter untapped, or if you don't want to, it'll enter taps for a white. Or late game when you don't need a land, or just want something for removal, you've got 3 and a white for a human warlock. When Witch Enchanter enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls, and she's also a 2/2. Just a good card. And then the last cut we made was the last land that enters tap, Smoldering Marsh. This land enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. I just thought there was other stuff better for it. That's it. That's our guide. I spent a ton of time talking about the new cards. This was very hard to make cuts around because there's just so many new cards, and that's our thing we do. We don't cut new cards, so we would rather keep those in so people can play them straight box. So we try to make cuts in accordance to that. So it was tough. It was tough to make cuts for this deck. In total, we had 8 in, 8 out is how we did it. But to enter, please just comment, like this video, be subscribed to our channel, and then just say hey in the comments, like, this is what I would do differently. This is what I think about Final Fantasy VI. Just make a thoughtful comment. It really goes a long way for increasing your chances to win. I do promise that. But thank you so much. We're super excited to give these away. I know these are expensive decks, so hopefully this goes to someone who was like, man, I really wanted them, but I just can't afford them. That's the goal here. I wish we could give away more. I promise as we grow, we will. That's the name of the game. We love giving back. So please enter, like, subscribe, find us on all of our socials. Come join the Discord so we can chat about Final Fantasy. You can correct me on all the wrong things I said about the lore or the characters or the mispronunciations of their names. Until then, I appreciate it. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for everything. We hit 5,000 subscribers. Let's go! So let's take it to the moon, baby. Let's be the #1 channel on YouTube for Magic the Gathering. How wild would that be one day? Who knows? You know, we're just gonna keep growing and keep having fun with it. But again, thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. We'll see you on the next video. Until then, bye.